Welcome back to another video. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. We've got another Spurs chat going on tonight. I've got three very special guests. Lee the Dorset Spur. We've got Melvin all the way from Malta. And we have got YouTube star Duo Max with us tonight. We will be going through the Harry Kane speculation. We will be going through who will be the next Tottenham Hotspur head coach, Ryan Mason's interim time in charge at Tottenham Hotspur, and then we will be looking forward to the Aston Villa game. Lee, let's start with you. All this speculation about Harry Kane, possibly leaving the club in the summer. It was released by Sky Sports yesterday. The last 24 hours, it just seems, everyone's going mad thinking Harry Kane is going to leave. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one, isn't it, to hear? Because obviously, star player, talisman, the guy that's out to break all the records and everything else. But then when you look at where the source is coming from, it's coming from Sky Sports, who, to be fair, they're just a glorified TalkSport clickbait group who just want you to put your money on their Sky bet and stuff. So for me, until I see Harry Kane actually come out and go, you know what, I definitely want to leave, then I'll take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt. I personally got no doubts that he wants better. I'm sure he does. We all do. And I'm sure he could go out and get a better team to get some guaranteed trophies or whatever, especially at the moment. But do I think it's going to happen? I don't think it's going to happen this summer. Maybe at the end of the season, next season, maybe when his contract's a lot tighter, and Daniel Levy then has to make a decision about whether to cash in or not. But I think at the moment the club would be absolutely mental to let Harry Kane go. And I don't think he's the sort of player that's going to go on strike or any of that sort of nonsense. So for me, I'll wait and see what Harry says. Let's see what Harry says before we get too upset about it.
Max, let's come to you. Thanks so much for coming on. I can't believe, it's the first time you've ever been on this channel. So thanks so much for coming on. When you saw the news yesterday from Sky Sports saying about Harry Kane possibly leaving Spurs in the summer, how did you feel? Was it one of those times again where you just felt, oh, here we go again?
I think you just hit the nail on the head, and so did Lee. Every year there's speculation that he's going to leave. Oh, he can go and win trophies, and we always think, nah, he's not going to leave this season. I think this is the first time in probably a few years where I've thought to myself, we're not in Champions League place. We haven't won that trophy, obviously the one we missed out on. And if there was a time, now's the time. But then obviously the money's got a way up to it. And is there a club? There's only a number of clubs, obviously, that are actually going to be able to afford him or even put an actual offer together. Let's face it. What's that? City, United. And then if you're any of the big clubs abroad, probably. But I can't see him going abroad anyway. So it's another one of them getting to the end of the season. Harry Kane, like Lee said, Sky Sports, headline after headline. This is going to be going on all summer. It's going to be the biggest spoke about potential non-transfer that's going to happen this season, because it's Harry Kane. He's always spoken about. They talk about him even when we're not even playing. There was an article about him at 7 a.m, like this morning. It's like people aren't even awake yet, and you're talking about Harry Kane. I don't really understand it, but it's like he gets a lot of hate and he gets all the stick. Oh, Harry Kane this, Harry Kane that. And as soon as there's the potential that he's going to be signing for one of their clubs, like Chelsea fans start loving him, Man City fans love him all of a sudden. And you just think, where have you come from? Earlier you were hating on him or saying, oh, I'd have Aguero over Kane, all of this rubbish. You know what I mean? So it just shows you how good of a striker he is, and how everyone just speaks so highly of him. His goals per season, just he's a talisman, isn't he? 20 plus goals for the last, I'm just shouting a random number here, 7-8 seasons without, and it was meant to be a one season wonder. And I mean, the fact that he potentially might leave is just, it's going to be heartbreaking for many people, even especially myself, because from what I've seen, he's been the best Spurs striker, obviously, in my time that I've seen. There's been no one better. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Daniel Levy, he's got a big summer ahead of him, obviously, with the protest being recently. It's kind of now. I know it's. They always say it's never too late in whatever you're talking about, whatever in respect, whatever the subject is. But could it be too late this time? Daniel Levy, I think he's got a lot of haters, and he's got a lot to rectify if he wants to put this right, because if he goes, that this is a downward spiral, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about, Max. We will certainly come back to that point. Melvin, let's come to you. Your initial thoughts on this speculation yet again about Harry Kane leaving?
It's a difficult one to really gauge. He's been flawless, Harry Kane. He's not put a foot wrong. He's such an intelligent guy, such an intelligent player, and he loves the club. And if he leaves, if he really wants to leave, do you really blame him at the end of the day? No, he gave us years and years of service, goals, amazing performances, but I honestly don't see it. I don't know. I don't see him, being the type, like Berbatov did, wanting to leave and, going to the airport and whatever happened. I don't see him being that type of player. I think he might, speak to the board. He will voice his concern. Maybe, maybe something like this will, make the club act in the market. Finally they will open their eyes and realize, listen, we're going to lose this massive asset if we don't act now. The club needs help, and maybe it's something that Mourinho told him before he left. Maybe he told him, listen, if you want to lift trophies, you have to leave, because it's not in the club's DNA. It's not in the last 10-15 years. We've not been a club that wins things. We've been building our feet in this world of football where it's dominated by money, and now it resulted in us not winning any trophies. And a guy like Harry Kane deserves trophies, and honestly I don't see it happening, but if it does, I wouldn't blame him.
I was saying this morning. Harry Kane deserves trophies, and when you think the amount of players that have left, Pochettino left as well without winning trophies, and it frustrates me as a Spurs fan when you see all of these players and managers leave, and then they go on to win trophies after they've left Spurs. Lee, do you think that Harry Kane will actually be allowed to leave the club?
I think Max touched on it with talking about Daniel Levy. I think we're in a situation now where we are at a real turning point, and that's going to, you really need to think very carefully about their next step, because as tempting as it might be to say, let's cash in, let's sell Harry for mega money and rebuild the squad. We've tried that, and that went nowhere. Only Lamella is left out of all of those players we bought with the Bale money, and we even brought Bale back. So, I think they're at a real crossroads about what they do. I don't think they're going to want to let him go yet, purely because of where we're at. We're in a terrible situation where we could end up going on a downward spiral as they did down the road. They've managed to still pick up silverware, which is really, really annoying with a worse team than we've had. But I think that's where we're at. If we're not careful, I think you can stomach a season last season coming sixth, with the change of manager and all the rest of it. This season was supposed to be the turning point season, and that's gone totally wrong. So now they need to get it right. And losing Harry Kane would be such a bad move at this moment in time. And I've seen the comments, people saying, "Oh, he never turns up in finals" and all the rest of it. It's there's lots of reasons around that. The guy gets rushed back in and all the rest of it because we're so desperate and we're so reliant on him. But they need to build around him, not just rely on him to do what he does. So for me, I don't think we could afford to let him go. I don't think Daniel Levy could take that risk. That's not to say Daniel Levy wouldn't take the risk, but I don't think that. I think Daniel Levy's shrewd enough to realise that now is not the right time.
It's just a comment for you here, Lee. Is Lee British? Does he wish he was American?
Why would I wish I was American? Go on, hit me with it. What are they trying to say?
I've no idea.
Is it because I look like the Colonel Sanders? Is that what they're in?
Completely off track now. I don't know what I was going to ask.
No idea.
I see that comment come in. I just had to smile.
yeah. Max, let's come.
Is Lee British?
The speculation about Harry Kane. Now, Spurs released this very short statement saying our focus is on finishing the season as strongly as possible. That's what everyone should be focused on. Now, us Spurs fans, surely we want to be hearing something from the club saying, no, Harry Kane's going to be in next season. Now, Ryan Mason in the press conference today, I don't know whether you saw it, but
yeah,
he weren't giving anything away. And, all we want to hear as Spurs fans is, no, Harry Kane will be here. Now, after tomorrow's game against Aston Villa, surely Harry Kane is going to be talking to Sky Sports and, all of the media journalists. And the question is going to be, are you leaving? Are you going to be a Spurs player next season? Now, if we don't hear those words, yes, I'll be a Spurs player next season, we're all going to be very worried, aren't we?
The problem is, I know he's Mr. Tottenham and everyone knows he loves the club, but not many players just turn around and genuinely say these days, yeah, I'm staying next season. Like it's like they're not allowed to, or I don't know, they don't want to stop a potential something happening in the future. But that aside, it'll be interesting just to see how he deals with the situation if he does get interviewed, because I'm sure there's going to be reporters after the game stopping him from going down the tunnel, and we're going to be seeing a Harry Kane interview, and it's going to be a strange one. He's going to be asked some silly questions. Ryan Mason, I think he dealt with it brilliantly. I'm not going to lie to him. You got to remember, he's 2 years older than me, Ryan Mason, and he's getting asked these questions about someone that's as obviously not bigger than the club, but Mr. Tottenham himself. He's probably his friend as well, probably good friends, and he's got to generally just say straight up, answering. He answered that question within like 5 seconds, and a lot of pressure. He's thinking about the game tomorrow, and he knows these questions are going to be coming. And who was it? It was Moose from TalkSport, weren't it, that popped that question on him? And I thought he'd done really well with it, to be honest, because he could have turned around and said, like, I don't know what you're on about. He could have retaliated and said, like, how dare you ask me these sort of questions? He done well just to not give too much away, just redirect it and put it in his favour and say, lead it on to the next game. We don't need to talk about this. This is in this hand. We've got a big game tomorrow. We still need to win it. Harry Kane's going to be in the squad. It goes without saying Harry Kane's bigger than Ryan Mason. And he knows that there wasn't really a wrong or right answer. And I don't think he could have said, yeah, he's definitely staying, because it could potentially be a lie. And he could only learn from other managers with this sort of he would have had. I don't know how I'm trying to word this, but there's obviously managers in the past. There'll be managers in the past. Let's use Mourinho for an example, that would have had a player that could potentially be leaving, and Mourinho's got the experience just to put that aside. As well, Mason, he's below his depth at the moment, so he done brilliantly. Yeah, that's my take on that, to be honest. I mean, you could go on for hours just talking about who's going to ask Harry Kane questions after tomorrow's game, because it's all we're going to see.
Yeah. Melvin, let's come to you. What is your gut feeling with this Harry Kane situation? Is he staying? Is he going?
I don't know, because once the league is done, he has to fly off to the Euros. He has to be captain of England, Mr. Responsible. He has to lead, England, the Three Lions. He has to lead them out. And I'm sure he'll get asked this during the international, tournament. So he's not representing Tottenham at that time. So it'll be interesting what he says. But I don't know. My gut feeling is if Tottenham can somehow, attract a big name manager, maybe a couple of signings, and Harry Kane is back, and they can convince him of a new project. And we're not far off as a team as well, because our attacking numbers are pretty good. Our goal tallies this season has been excellent. It's just defending, and we just need to convince him that as a club we're not far off from winning trophies. Which is exactly why he wants to leave. If we can convince him that we're very close to winning things like we were a couple of years ago, I'm sure he'll be happy to stay, because he's on good wages. He loves the club. He has a family, he has a daughter, a son coming. He's not gonna want to move, and why ruin his perfect reputation at Tottenham by going to another club in England.
Yeah, Melvin, as much as I love being positive about Spurs, the way I feel at the moment, you go back 2 years, we're in a Champions League final. You look at the state of what things are like at the moment. If you were Harry Kane, surely you'd be thinking, you know, should I go elsewhere? Should I go to Manchester City? Should I go to Manchester United? You know, it pains me to say that, but when you think of, you know, hasn't won a trophy at Spurs in all this time. Hugo Lloris, Dele Alli, Heung-min Son, no trophies. When you think of like Jan Vertonghen, you think of Kyle Walker going off to Manchester City and then winning trophy within 6 months. Kieran Trippier has gone on to win a trophy. Christian Eriksen has gone on to win a trophy with somebody else, not at Tottenham. You know, every single pundit seems to be telling Harry Kane to leave. That is a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a massive problem. You know, these pundits, they hate our club. They have such a biased agenda against us. Even with the Sky Sports and all these guys, they're going to talk and say anything that benefit their club. You know, if they can somehow do anything to convince him to go to Manchester United, they will. If they can somehow, you know, get him to Manchester City, they're gonna do it. It's difficult to gauge what's going on through the media, through these, you know, massive broadcasters that will do anything for views, anything for clickbait. They'll do anything, you know. They'll twist the stories, they'll create headlines out of nothing, and you know, you can only trust, you know, these honest guys like maybe Alistair Gold, and you know, what you hear from Twitter is not always correct, but as a club, I wish we can offer Kane exactly what he wants, which is, you know, Champions League football and winning trophies. And I believe we will get there one day. But it's a shame that we've fallen a bit off the pace, and it's going to take time to get back to where we were 2 years ago.
Lee, let's come to you. It has been stated that representatives from Chelsea, Manchester City and Manchester United have contacted Harry Kane's representatives, CK66, about a possible move. Now, even with William Hill today, he is favourite to join Manchester City at 13-8, second favourite Manchester United at 11-4, Chelsea 7-1. Now, if Harry Kane was to leave Spurs, surely it's not going to be a London club and it's not going to be Chelsea, is it?
I really can't see that. For me, when you see Harry Kane and you listen to him talk and all the rest of it, he's an intelligent guy, right? And he's got a lot of integrity. He always comes across as very professional in what he does and how he speaks and what he thinks about. So I can't honestly see him wanting to kill his credibility with all of the Spurs fans around the world by joining someone like Chelsea. You know, for me, the only club so I think that Harry Kane wants to win the biggest prizes. You talk about everybody that's gone off and won silverware, but only really in the ones you just mentioned, only really Walker has won the big prize of the Premier League. The others have won cups and silverware in other countries, which, you know, to be fair, they're not as prestigious as the Premier League, except for maybe the Champions League, right? So yeah, they might have won silverware in those countries, but that ain't what Kane wants. Kane wants the Champions League, and he wants the Premier League. Well, City ain't won the Champions League yet, but he's pretty much guaranteed that he could win the league. He's pretty much guaranteed he can win an FA Cup, a League Cup, or whatever, and progress very far. I don't think you get that with the other clubs. You don't get that with Chelsea. You might get to the finals, and yeah, they have been a powerhouse. But again, they've got to spend big money, and they did last season. And look what it got them. Really, they got to a Champions League final. They've still got to win it, right? So there's no guarantees in that. Whereas with Man City, there's more of a guarantee that he's going to pick up some kind of silverware. And that was my argument about Manchester United. You know, Manchester United are second. You know, they're in the Europa League final and all the rest of it. They ain't won that yet, right? And you don't get no prizes for coming second. And considering how upside down this league's been this year, anyone could have been second, to be fair. The amount of teams that have given up trying to get in the top four, no, you have it, no, you have it. No one really wants to win it, you know, and no one ever wants to get in there. So for me, I can't see him wanting to go to Chelsea because of his integrity. I can't see him wanting to go to Manchester United because there is no guarantees that he's going to be any further forward. And that'll be, Man United fans won't like me saying that, but that's just my opinion. So it's got to be City if it's anybody in this country. And I don't think he'll want to go abroad because the silverware isn't as prestigious, except for the Champions League. So, you know, ultimately, for me, it's just City as an option. And even if they wanted to spend the sort of money we're talking about, and I'm not sure they do. I'm not sure they want to spend that sort of money. Not when you can go out and get, say, Holland or whatever for a bit less than that for a younger guy and all the rest of it. You know, so I think it's a really difficult, really strange scenario. Like I said, that's why I'm not really hanging my hat on it. And in terms of Ryan Mason, just to touch on that, if that's all right, what else is he going to do? You know, these guys have lessons on how to deal with the media. Yeah. I mean, you know, not like us who come on here and just say what we think, what's sort of in our hearts, that they're trained on what they can and can't say and what the right and wrong responses are. If he'd have come out and said, oh, yeah, you know, I've spoken to Harry, he's definitely going to say that's a bullshit story from Sky, that ain't going to go down very well, is it? You know, so he has to be professional, he has to be pragmatic, and he has to kind of toe the line. And I think that's what you'll see from Harry Kane. Harry Kane will say, I've got a contract. I'm here with the club. All I'm concentrating on is finishing this season to see where we end up, and looking forward to the Euros with England. That's what he's going to say. He's not going to confirm or deny anything, because that's not what they do.
He won't say anything that's going to give anything away. Literally, yeah. Yeah,
he's got to, hasn't he? He's got to be professional about it, surely. You know, so I don't think you can read too much into it. We all will, of course we will, but in the cold light of day, I don't think you can.
So the problem this day now, if Kane goes and has a quiet game tomorrow, everyone's like, oh, he's off, you know, that sort of thing. Oh, he goes missing in cup finals. Like, you'd rather have Kane in a cup final than not. So I don't know what you're on about. If Kane is fully fit, Harry Kane on the bench or playing in the cup final, you're playing him. So I don't know why people even use that as just because he doesn't score in them. Like, doesn't mean he hasn't helped the team. It's a load of nonsense. But yeah, you pretty much just hit everything on the head there. The media, he's going to say, he's going to give absolute zilch away, and he'll just let the board and he'll just let his agent and all that do the behind the scenes. He won't be involved with anything like that.
Are you worried though, Max, the fact that Spurs won't be in next season's Champions League? Because when Harry Kane, he said it on more than one occasion as well. You know, he wins all these individual awards, but he wants to be winning the big prizes, the Champions League and the Premier League. You know, you sitting there as a Spurs fan, how close do you think Tottenham are to winning one of those prizes?
The annoying thing is we've been so close to both of them. And we've had a better side. Like, this side's good, don't get me wrong, but it's nowhere near what it was when you had like Rose, Walker running up the wings. You look like you're going to score every time we got the ball. Now it's like, when are the goals coming recently, sort of thing. So it is worrying times, and no Spurs fan's going to sit here and say, yeah, I can see him going, because they want him to stay.
We don't want to believe it, do we?
No Spurs fan will believe it, and we're kind of lucky. Not no one's lucky, obviously. It's just the way it's coming out. But the whole pandemic has made funds a lot more harder to get a hold of. Obviously not for these millionaires and billionaires, obviously. But the fact that City are probably the only club that could be of interest to him, we're kind of lucky in that respect, really. The fact that he is actually a born Tottenham boy and isn't going to go to another London club. Because if he was Spanish, German, he'd happily probably just say, I'll go to any one of these clubs. So we're lucky in that respect. But these players don't come along very often. It's just a shame that we haven't been able to just grab that last extra bit when it's mattered the most. And we've had our best sides.
It seems like we're a million miles away from trophies at the moment, though, Max, doesn't it?
You're telling me. That the game against City, if it's only because we held out until like the 75th minute that we had that little bit of hope that we might have gone on and done something, or when Højbjerg, you remember that pass that where Kane passed it to the left to Højbjerg and they just like looked at each other, that stupid mistake, and yeah, those chances didn't happen. But on another day, someone shoots, someone scores, and we're living in dreamland because we got a trophy, which wouldn't have even been a big trophy. But any trophy is a big trophy when you're a Tottenham fan at the moment, isn't it?
Max, just last question for you. I know it's your first time on the channel. Your first time on the channel. I just wanted to get your opinion on sacking Jose Mourinho 6 days before the cup final. Were you in favour of that or not?
Now, obviously, knowing that we haven't won it, it's easy to say why did we do that, and why did Mourinho get the sack? Had we won it, I probably wouldn't have been bothered too much. But his experience and the fact he hadn't lost that many hadn't he lost like one cup final or something? I was reading. His experience, he just having Mourinho on the touchline in a cup final would have been much more encouraging than having Ryan Mason, bless his heart. It is pain. It was more of like a joke. I couldn't really believe we'd done it because I thought he was going to get until the end of the season.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you spoke about this obviously on other chats and streams, but it's just been a crazy season. This season's just been so many ups and downs, and like you said, other clubs have been absolutely dreadful this season, and yet again we haven't been able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, well, you talk about, Lee said about second, because Manchester United have drawn with Fulham tonight, 1-1. Southampton 0, Leeds United 2. 2 results tonight. Melvin, let's come to you. Harry Kane is, of course, in contract with Tottenham until 2024. No official transfer request as yet. As I said, Ryan Mason hasn't given anything away in his press conference today. But disappointing is a word that Harry Kane has used a lot. And when you think last year, during the pandemic, at the start of it, he spoke to Jamie Redknapp and he said if he feels that the club are not going in the right direction, then he would have to look to perhaps move on. Realistically, do you see Harry Kane moving on this summer?
I think the club can easily fix the problem or control it straight away. Speak to him, tell him listen, you're under contract, there's 2 years left, there's no way we're gonna let you go. Because if you think about it, look how many players we still have to replace. We still have to replace Kyle Walker, we still have to replace Eriksen, and we haven't replaced Moussa Dembele, and the list goes on and on and on for players that we still haven't managed to recruit properly and replace these guys. How we're going to replace 22 goals and 13 assists, because that's what Kane provides for us this season. How with Steve Hitchen and those guys, it's impossible to let him go, because how can you replace that amount of goals and assists per season? We've been lucky that Kane found this new role of dropping in and providing a creative spark to the team, something that was missing when Eriksen left. And he adapted his game, losing a bit of pace, but he's still Harry Kane, and he's still producing, and he's still banging the goals. So the club cannot afford to lose a guy like him, because we have so many problems already, in defense, and we need to recruit in these positions, and we cannot afford to lose our main guy, our star player, someone who's worth so much to the club. Just it would be like shooting yourself in the foot right before a marathon. It would be very, very disappointing, and the fan base have suffered enough, and we cannot possibly think about that right now. I don't know. Until it happens, I don't think it will happen, but it's hard to accept it. It's hard to think about it. We've lost big name players before, and we've always come back. We've lost Gareth Bale, and we've lost all those guys, and we had to watch them leave our club. And it's always a step backwards. But if Kane leaves, for a ridiculous amount of money, probably, hopefully it's invested in the right way. I don't know what else to say.
I feel Melvin feels like he's left already.
Yeah.
Sometimes I try, even before the cup final against Manchester City, I accepted the defeat, I think 3 weeks before it actually happened. As a Spurs fan, it's true, because it happened in the past. If history teaches you something, it's always the same thing, the same problems with Spurs. When do we learn? It's like we have to make the mistake 17 times to learn. So
we have to learn. We have to learn quick. Lee, let's come to you. Let's talk about the possible, candidates to manage Tottenham, because of course we've got Ryan Mason in charge at the moment as interim head boss. With William Hill today, Simeone Inzaghi is the favourite to take over as the new head coach, 15-8. Scott Parker is second favourite at 5-1. Graham Potter, 13-2. Fancy any of those?
Wow, that's really got me excited. I'm so pumped. No, I don't fancy any of them. I don't. Listen, as much as you've got to put respect out, these guys are professional managers, right? And they've been professional footballers and all the rest of it. And they're not stupid people or whatever. But when you're trying to build a club and a brand and that, you need to be going out and getting the biggest and the best that you can. You know, that's what Chelsea did when they brought in Mourinho the first time, right? You know, Abramovich came in, he had all the money and all the rest of it, so he went out and he got the best that he could. City have done the same. They've been trying to get the best, and then they got, finally they get Guardiola, who's the man who's gonna bring them the Champions League. That's what they're looking for, right? To complete all of that. So they go out and get the best. They're not looking around at the bottom of the league saying, who could be available, who could be the next big thing. Because that's what we're doing all the time. We're doing it with players. We're doing it with managers. You don't want who's the next best thing. You want the best that you can get that's available right now, or that can be tempted to come. So let's be fair. Are those three the best that are out there that we could get? And I get it. Why would someone want to come to Tottenham? Because we're all doom and gloom. But let's be honest. At the beginning of this season, when we started spending money and we brought in players, okay, we've had a season with those players. Some of them haven't worked out yet, but that doesn't mean to say they're not going to, and that they're crap footballers. It's just not working at the moment. So it's what is going to make that work? Who can get the best out of those people? Is it Scott Parker? Is Scott Parker going to get hold of Tanguy Ndombele and make him work harder? Because he's got skill, he's got ability, he's got vision, but when you watch him play, you think he's lazy, or I do, right? So is he going to get the best out of him? What about Serge Aurier? Who out of those three is going to get hold of Serge Aurier and make him be a better defender? And that's my point, right? If you're not going to get rid of Serge Aurier and get the best right back that you can get, you've got to get the best out of Serge Aurier you've got. So you need to get the best manager that's out there. So for me, with all due respect to Scott Parker and Graham Potter and that, I don't think they are.
Max, what needs to happen this summer? Does a director of football need to come in? Does Daniel Levy need to relieve some of his duties? Paul writes here about a big problem being Steve Hitchen. I know a lot of fans are getting on Steve Hitchen's back, stating that the recruitment has just been so poor in recent years. And we saw in the Amazon documentary saying that he absolutely hates the January transfer window.
Oh no, I remember seeing that episode and just thinking, like, January transfer window for fans is normally like, we look forward to that. You want your club to make that extra signing that can push you towards the end of the season. So he seems a strange bloke, and I don't really know what he's doing behind the scenes. And to be honest, I'm not the one that's all clued up and fact up about everyone behind the board. I know there's a lot of people that will be able to shout out stats and say, "Oh, this bloke does this, he does that." But the whole Mourinho and the new candidates for the Tottenham job, just like Lee was saying, just isn't exciting at all. And with the recruitment process, Daniel Levy recruited one of the best managers that was out there in football, Jose Mourinho. He hasn't been able to do the job. We ended up getting rid of him. Do you go ahead and just try another big name and spend loads of money on him, or do you try someone that's going to come in and just maybe do what they're doing? Do a Graham Potter, do a Scott Parker. Give them. It's a massive job, the Tottenham job. Like, you've got a huge stadium. You've got players like Ndombele, Harry Kane. They're not players that just want to be coming and told, yeah, you go do this, go do that. Like, they want to be managed properly. Like, they're professionals. They want to win trophies. So, and that's the next manager that comes in. He can't be someone that's just going to lay down and let the players walk all over him. So that could be why Lee's saying he doesn't want Scott Parker or Graham Potter. I don't know. But what was the other candidate? Sorry, was it, how did you say his surname?
Inzaghi, the Lazio manager.
I mean, obviously I know him from being a footballer, but I don't know enough about him as a manager, as a coach. it's just a big job. It goes over my head, and I'm even inclined just to say, just stick out with Ryan Mason until another candidate comes along, because those candidates just aren't exciting, and it's someone who's going to be at the helm for a few years. What if they have a bad season next season? Whoever comes in, fans are just going to want them out.
That's an interesting point there, Max, because you say about Scott Parker and Graham Potter. If we're thinking along those lines, wouldn't we just be better off keeping Ryan Mason at the helm?
Well, exactly. He's got you could say he's got the job at the moment. He's played for Spurs. He gets on well with all of them. I don't know what his relationship is like with Daniel Levy, but it can't be too bad if he's just been given the job. Do you know what I mean? So see what happens at the end of the season. We've only got a couple of games left. See if any other candidates come out, because what is the difference between Parker got Fulham promoted and he's had a good season. They've played some all right football. Same with Brighton and Graham Potter. But when I saw the Potter news coming on, what was it, about a month ago or a few weeks ago on my timeline, I was like, what? Like that was my initial reaction. I was like, I want a big name. I don't want Mr. Potter. I don't want no Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It's just I'm Mr. Optimistic all the time. And I want Spurs to do well as much as anyone else. And even I'm struggling to know what our next turn or point is. Where do we go from here? It's got to be, it has to be maybe Ryan Mason for a bit. I don't know. You could talk about it for ages, the manager situation, but there's not even a manager out there. I mean, Inzaghi, what's that? You can't be having him come in and manage Tottenham. I'm sorry, it's done my head in, that is.
Melvin, let's come to you. So many names are being bandied about, but of course, William Hill are naming those three as the three favourites. When you think Mauricio Pochettino took us to a Champions League final, we delivered top four, every season. Then we bring in Jose Mourinho, as Max said, bring in a serial winner just to try to get over that line and get a trophy in the cabinet. Where do you go now? Surely Daniel Levy in the board, this is a huge, huge decision because they can't get this wrong. Is someone like Graham Potter going to be a huge gamble at Tottenham?
I don't know. I don't know what manager. Well, I have my personal favorite that I would want, and neither of you have mentioned him so far. So I don't know. Personally, I would go for Marcelo Bielsa from Leeds. I don't know. I just think he's the Pochettino way, in a way, how he works the team, how, the fitness, how he sets up, the attacking football. He's well respected, within the game. Yes, he's in a way he is proven in the Premier League because he's taken Leeds to the Premier League and he kept them safe, and overall we have a much better squad than Leeds. We're a bigger club, we're much more attractive, we have big name players, and I think if he can imagine Ndombele, under Bielsa's pre-season, he'll probably come back, a couple of kilos lighter, a bit faster, and it's exactly what we need because we have, right now some lazy players, in my opinion, and I think he's a very good tactician, and right now you just need, as a club, to increase that work rate that Pochettino used to do with the double training sessions and crazy sprints, and it's what we need. We need effort right now from the entire club, and I think he's the perfect mold. And I think it's been out in the media that they want a similar manager to Pochettino, which is in a way saying, we were wrong to sack him. If they're saying that we want a similar mold to Pochettino, that's what they're saying. We were wrong to sack him, and at the time I didn't like Pochettino being sacked, but I was excited for Mourinho. So it's like at the time, Levy took a massive gamble and a massive call to sack Poch to get Jose in. So with the Harry Kane situation, it's another big call. Do you sell him and use the funds for the team? It's a massive call. And I think it's one that needs to be taken and needs to be taken correctly. we cannot afford, another massive gamble like that. We went from our most successful manager, one that took us to the Champions League final, to Jose. At the time, no one knew if that was the right call, and now obviously we know it wasn't the right call, and now we need to go back and do what was working, which I think for me, Marcelo Bielsa would be the perfect manager for us.
You know what, Melvin? You used the word lazy there, lazy players. I just think that it is a fitness issue. When you see what the fitness level was like under Pochettino, the players were running in the 95th minute like it was the first minute. And now it is completely different, 2 years on with some of these players. I just think it's a real fitness issue at the moment. Lee, let's come to you. Melvin says there about Mauricio Pochettino. Do you think there's any chance of him coming back? The board need to get the fans back on side this summer. Do you think that could happen?
Anything's possible. Anything's possible. Me personally, I as much as I respected Pochettino and didn't want him to go, towards the end, he made some strange decisions and did some strange stuff, and it all kind of went a bit funny. So for me, I've never one to want to go backwards and go back to where you were. Bearing in mind, he's gone to PSG, where potentially he may not win the league. Is that right? Is he still in that situation where Lille may win it, which is unthinkable for PSG? He's out of the Champions League, obviously losing to City. So, I mean, he hasn't really, he's got those players, Mbappe and Neymar and stuff like that, and he can't get to the Champions League final with them. And it sounds like I'm running him down. I don't mean it in that way. But what I'm saying is, once you've been down that road, do you want to go backwards? I don't think we do. And I think the issue with what you mentioned about laziness and fitness, I got to ask the question: how does that happen? How does a team that's so hard working under Pochettino end up as lazy and slow and not bothered under Mourinho, when Mourinho is known for his straight talking, hard working, work ethic style? How does a team that was so hard working become lazy? How does that happen? There's got to be something deeper have gone on there for that situation to happen, And Bielsa, I think he's a great shout, although I don't think he would come to Tottenham, because he's the one that people like Pochettino build their managerial style on. I mean, he's well respected amongst other managers, as to how he coaches and all the rest of it. So he would be a great shout. He's clearly a good manager, but I can't see him wanting to come to Tottenham when he's got such a good thing going on at Leeds and really kind of getting somewhere. So I can't see that happening, to be honest with you. But just touching on the Potter thing, I think we're all giving him a bit of disrespect because he's English. He's manager of Brighton. He's fairly new to Premier League management and blah blah blah. But I guess the biggest issue for me is that the players need to respect the coach. They need to want to play for the coach. They need to respect his opinions, his views, his ethic, his plan, and that kind of stuff, and be inspired by him. You don't want someone to just be a manager. You want them to be the leader. So without knowing Graham Potter, it's hard to know whether he has that leadership quality that these players are going to respond to. Because for me, I think the biggest problem this season hasn't been, and last season hasn't been around the manager. It's been around the players and the players' attitude, because they're the guys on the pitch that have to do the business after all.
Max, let's come to you. Does it worry you, the fact that all these managers we seem to be linked with, all these managers just keep coming out and saying, no, I'm not interested in the job. I'm very happy where I am. Nagelsmann was a clear and the obvious target for Spurs. He's gone off he will be managing Bayern Munich. Erik ten Hag then signed an extension at Ajax. Brendan Rodgers, the likes of Brendan Rodgers, have come out and said no. Bielsa, even the other day, said no, I've got no interest in going to Tottenham. I want to stay at Leeds. All these managers keep coming out and saying, no, I don't want the job. Who is going to take over?
Well, I won't go on too much about it, because I think we've just touched base. But if Mourinho's obviously not being able to do what he can do at Tottenham, and he can do it everywhere else, if you're an outsider, if you're Bielsa, if you're Potter, if you're Rodgers, you're going to look at that and go, if they've gone there, they've got technically the best striker in the league. We've got decent players. Like, we're not sitting bottom of the league. We're just not good enough to be competing right at the top at the moment. But if managers have gone there. Technically, the best has been, well, not the best has been, but Mourinho winning all this, and he hasn't been able to do it. What's going to be different for them? Why are they going to want to go there, maybe get hated after a whole season, and then end up getting sacked again, and then being back to square one when they've got something good going on at Leeds, going on at Leicester, who are winning things? There's just, why would you leave when you're top of your game at the moment, which those managers are? I mean, yes, Potter, I don't think Potter would bat an eyelid at coming, and it would be a big gamble again. But they've done really well to get to their respected club. What's going to make them want to go that extra mile and go and it's going to take something big, because obviously we've missed out on who we wanted to get. So they're going to think, well, I'm not even first choice anymore, because you think they're going to obviously have seen all the reports and see who Spurs are linked with, aren't they? They're not stupid. They probably get more information than we get. So yeah, is there a manager out there that is brave enough to take the Tottenham job? That could be the question. Whoever comes in is going to have to be backed by the fans, by Levy, by the players. It's not just a walk in and I've got a squad to sort out. It's a different ball game. Like, the fans are going to be back next season. The fans haven't been able to be behind Mourinho this season. I mean, can you imagine that, watching some of those games, the 0-0s, the 1-0 leads to like the 60th, 70th minute, and then bringing on Sissoko and things like we haven't even spoke about any individual players yet. We've only spoken about like the managers. I mean, some of these players
we only normally do about an hour and 15. So if you want to be on here for 3 hours, we'll talk about every single player.
That's my say on that anyway.
Melvin, let's come to you. Now, Ryan Mason took charge. He's taken charge of 4 Premier League games so far. We've won 3 out of the 4. He's won 3 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Southampton, Sheffield United and Wolves. What have you made of his time as interim boss so far?
Yeah, he's been all right. He's a bit naive in the cup final, a bit, it showed his inexperience. But, all in all, he's said all the right things and, put the formation that we all love. Dele Alli's back in the team and, it's great. He looks like Jack Sparrow now, Dele Alli, with his hairstyle. But it's in a way he's trying to play the Pochettino way, which is the style that he learned at Spurs, and I'm sure he has his own influence on the tactics and the formation. And you hear that the training sessions are very, very good, and the players look happier, and maybe there's a bit of pressing, a bit more energy. Obviously, we needed this at the beginning of the season, and it's a bit too late now. But yeah, against Leeds, you could tell how much fitter they are than us. They ran us off the park that game, and we couldn't compete for 90 minutes. But Ryan Mason, I think, he's 28, 29, 30. He's only a couple of years older than me, and he's managing one of the biggest clubs in England. It's a crazy game, football, how it happens, but he's showing early signs of potential. You could probably bet money right now that one day he'll definitely be managing Spurs. You'd like to see him go to the Championship, gather experience like some of the other ex-Tottenham players are doing, and you can probably bet money that one day he'll be back at the club managing them, if he starts his career at such a young age. And, he's saying all the right things in the media, and he's handling all these guys, and he's well respected within the club and within the dressing room. And, I've been impressed with him. Not probably, I don't want to do like Manchester United did and keep him for the future. I think it's too soon. And I don't like to be the guy that would turn on Ryan Mason, because what happened to him, and he's Tottenham through and through. And I'd hate for the club, to get to a position where we'd have to sack him. It's great that he's in this position where he's had the chance to manage us in a cup final and these 6 or 7 Premier League matches, but I hopefully by the end of the season, we have our target and we have our, top 2, 3 managers, and we acquire him early, and we can maybe he can have the best Premier League record for Tottenham, because if he can win his last 2 matches, he'll have probably like a 75-80% win ratio for us, which is crazy.
Lee, let's come to you. In our last game against Wolves, Spurs had more shots, 24 shots, and more shots on target, 13, than any Premier League game under Jose Mourinho. Now, Ryan Mason has obviously got Tottenham playing the Tottenham way. He's brought in Gareth Bale. He's brought in Dele Alli, regular starters under his management so far. What have you made of his time so far as interim boss?
Yes, I don't want to be the Mr. Negative again, but I think it's too soon to call anything on that. When you look at the opposition we've had, out of all of those teams, Leeds were the biggest challenge, and they ripped us to pieces. The cup final was really poor, lack of effort and so on. So that all kind of worries me slightly that the manager's got to do something about that, and to take off the players that are looking more likely and bringing on players that are doing nothing all season was a bit of a worry. So for me, he's doing what he needs to do. I think, at this moment in time, I think he's too new, too naive, and too much of a chairman's man, if you know what I mean. What do we say at work? You call someone a firm's man. He's a bit like that, He says what he needs to say and doesn't want to rock the boat. So I've not been overly impressed. All he's done is give Bale more time and bring Dele back, but against some poor opposition. Sheffield United, poor opposition. We done well. Wolves, I was really disappointed in Wolves. Their attack was so poor. So for me, I think it was a dot on the card that we were going to have more opportunities if we push on and try a little bit harder. If you've got Bale and Dele and Son and Kane in your team, you should be banging in loads and loads of chances, shouldn't you? Really, to be fair. And when you're playing someone like Wolves, in this season, that to me wasn't it wasn't oh wow, we're now playing the Tottenham way and we're really going for it. I didn't feel that, to be honest. I just felt it was more about Wolves being poor, and the same with Sheffield United. And when we played Leeds, there's one team that's really got into us and really tried to match us. We come unstuck. So for me, I don't want Ryan to carry on. I think potentially, if he in the future, once he's learned a bit and he's proved himself and got a bit of standing behind him, then I think he's got an opportunity. But for me, I think he's too close to the players that he's got there. They all know him. They all know him from as a player, as a kid. A lot of them probably grew up together, playing for Tottenham. So being a manager of people you grew up with is quite difficult. Really, to get the respect and stuff, But again, that's just my opinion. So,
Max, let's come to you. I know you want to talk about players. So I'll give you the opportunity to talk about players now. A big summer for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. What players need to leave this summer?
Oh, fabulous.
Who do you need to stay, Max? That's what you need to ask him. Who do you want to stay?
So, the starting lineup, who's staying? So, it's a tough one. Obviously, I want to see the obvious ones are Kane, Son, Dele, Ndombele on his day. I think he's brilliant. At the back. Am I literally just talking about players that I want to see leaving and coming in? Is it right? That's what you've given me? So Lloris, I'm more than happy. Lloris can have another season. I think he'll do another season. Then he's probably just gonna go back to France and then see out the rest of his career. End of the day, still brilliant keeper. I'd love to see even the Leeds one, Melier, is that how you pronounce it, or Nick Pope? They'd be the perfect replacements in my opinion. But obviously, the way things are going, it's hard to get hold of those sort of players. The back four, Sergio Aurier goes without talking about. Get him gone. Don't want to see him anymore. Don't need to be seeing that. Tanganga proved the other day, yes, Wolves were poor, but we've seen it in his debut against Liverpool, which feels so long ago now. He can, if he wants that position, he can have it, sort of thing. Unless we're going to go out and sign another right back. The back, the centre, the ones at the back in the middle, Dyer. I mean, it goes without saying he is absolute dire. He's diabolical at times. I don't know how he gets in over Roden. We haven't really seen much of Roden, to be honest, have we? To actually judge the kid.
What's happened there with Ryan Mason not putting Roden in?
The reason is because Dyer stands after the end of the game on the touchline looking at an empty goal. There's a picture, isn't there? Just to prove that I love the club, that sort of thing. So it was more like, Mason, there you go. It could be going back to, you're friends, and on your day, can you manage and say, yeah, you're my mate, but you ain't good enough. You're not good enough. Roden, here's your chance. He's an absolute unit of what we know. He's 6'3", puts his head on everything. There's that song that he heads a brick or something. So why not? Why not put him in? Toby goes without saying. I think he's been Mr. Solid at the back. Yeah, he's made the odd mistake, but don't they all at times? If you had to keep one, he'd be the one that stays. I think most Spurs fans would say that. The left back position, Ben Davies, get him gone. I think I've been crying out for that for years. I thought he actually had that decent season when he was playing better than Rose. But, I mean, look at Rose now. It probably wasn't hard to achieve that. Don't even know where Rose is these days. Isn't he training with the under-23s? Or
yeah.
God,
he'll be gone at the end of the season anyway, out of contract.
Right, so he's gone. So the left-back position's up for... I think that's... Well, obviously got Reggie, so I can't forget about Reggie, he's a fan favourite, isn't he? Because he gets forward and the Tottenham way is attacking. So I try not to actually read some of the comments while I'm talking, because I just end up laughing at most of them. But Reggie, so that's that. I don't even know who we're going to go for. I think that's another ball game. I think getting rid of players is first, because then that obviously opens up wages and who you can afford, and what positions we're actually going to be looking at. Midfield, Lo Celso, a lot of fans have been on his back as well. I quite liked him against Wolves. I thought he actually picks the ball up and he drives with it. I just don't really know his natural position. I don't know if he's an attacking mid. He's actually good at winning the ball back, but you've got Højbjerg for that. You don't want him there. You want him attacking and pushing up the pitch. So Højbjerg's staying, Ndombele's staying. That other position, Dele on his day can be unplayable, but recently he's just trying to get back in the scene, and that's probably why he's having some dodgy haircuts recently, just so people talk about that and not his football. Because let's face it, it's very easy to criticise Dele because he does these little stupid like flicks around the corner and they don't come off, and it's easy to get in their back, isn't it? So I still think, I know Lee said we haven't replaced Eriksen. I don't know who's out there that we're going to be. Who wants to come to Tottenham? Who wants to come? And when we haven't got Champions League, because end of the day, a player that we're going to go for, we're going to want them to be playing Champions League football, because then that probably means that they're experienced and will get straight in the side. We don't need a player we're going to who'll be good in 2-3 years again. We've been there, done that, and it's like a manager. It's like a manager. You need them to come in and do the job now. We're only going to keep slipping behind because these other teams are going to keep spending. I'm sure Leeds are going to Leicester are going to end up spending at the end of the season as well and improving. Instead of a top 4 now, it's like a top 7, isn't it? It's harder every season now. Sissoko as well. I mentioned him earlier, just because of the comments. I actually forgot about him. I don't know what's going to be happening with him. He was a fan favourite at one point, and when he scored, I've never actually seen any scenes like it. And that was when he scored the 4th goal or whatever. That's when you could actually enjoy watching Spurs. Things like that seem so far away. We're so far from being anywhere near where we need to be, and that's the struggle. Because whoever you bring in, they need to know instantly what positions we need to sign, who's getting rid of. You can't be waiting another season for that. You just can't. We're Tottenham.
Do you know what? It's so sad, isn't it? The amount of people I've asked on this channel. I asked that same question: who would you like to see leave at the end of the season? And just like you, you've just rattled off the names so fast, and it's sad, isn't it? All of us Tottenham fans, we're rattling off all these names, saying he can go, he can go, he can go, he can go. Do you think other fans do that about their clubs?
Probably. Probably not to the extent that we do.
Not as many players as we do, surely.
You can name a whole starting 11 of players that shouldn't be at the club, and I think that's the problem. It's nice to have players in rotation, but I don't want to be seeing Winks in midfield. Like, you're playing him against teams in the Europa League, and he's missed a sideways, and I'm cheering when he's passing the ball forward. I don't think it should be like that. you shouldn't. If you're wearing the Spurs shirt, imagine if I've got the Spurs shirt on, I know I'm not good enough. I'd just be like, oh, look, I'm gone. I'm sorry. I know I'm not good enough. It's just funny. It becomes we're a laughing stock at the moment. That's the problem. Other fans that are watching us, whether it's on Twitter or YouTube, they see clips. I mean, we're just not what we were, and we're so far from being back to where we should be. It's a nightmare. Whoever comes in has a nightmare job, and that's going back to the question you asked me. Whoever takes over has a nightmare of a job.
Yeah. Melvin, let's come to you. It is a huge job, isn't it? Because you said earlier, about Harry Kane staying. We're not that far away from winning trophies. I feel like we're a million miles away from winning trophies. And when you think of all these players that Max has just named there, and other people on this channel has named, about they want going this summer, is it all going to happen in one transfer window?
In a way, it has to. To be honest, do you really trust the current, recruitment that we have at the club to fix all these problems at one window? Somehow they have to make it happen. We haven't had a good window, I think, in such a long time. I think since Paul Mitchell left the club, I think Paul Mitchell did such an amazing job, and his signings are still, some of them are still at the club, and they've worked, and we haven't had a window where, other than, I think, Reguilon, replacing Danny Rose, other than him, we haven't really ever hit the nail on the head and gone, boom, he slots straight in. Oh, Højbjerg has been a good replacement. But for next season, it seems that we have to hit the nail on the head with 3 or 4 signings. We need 2 central defenders, and we need, a right back, and the list just seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger every season of how many players we need to replace. And the recruitment, keep buying these random players that we haven't heard of, Jetson Fernandez and Steven Bergwijn. We need players that, are going to fit in and impact the team straight away, and just hasn't happened. I look forward to, I think, Oliver Skip coming back and Ryan Sessegnon coming back, young players that I think had a successful loan period and know the club and maybe don't need that time to gel in, and maybe can impact next season. Max mentioned selling Ben Davis. I agree with that, because I think Sessegnon can fit in that slot and clear up some wages, and Lamela, I think, should be sold, and
I forgot about him.
The list, yeah.
How can you miss
How can you miss Lamela? Honestly, I do like Lamela, and I think he's been unlucky with injuries, and because when he plays, he's putting everything that he has into the pitch. It's a shame that he doesn't have enough talent sometimes, and or he's not intelligent enough. It's just he does stupid things on the pitch, like the Arsenal game. He goes from scoring an incredible goal to being sent off. It's just, if that doesn't scream Lamela, I don't know what does. The guy.
I don't know what the betting scenario is like over in Malta, but over here, if you put a yellow card on Lamela, you're going to win money. And it's another player that's like, sorry, I'll let you continue in a second, but it's another player that's a bit of a laughing stock, because 1, how many ball rolls is he going to do when he gets it? 2, when's the yellow card coming? When you bring a player on, it's meant to be exciting. And don't get me wrong, he's given Spurs his all. He gets the ball, he drives forward, he does a lot, but not enough. He's been in it's nearly 9 years now, and he was meant to be the next big thing. But I'll let you carry on, Matt.
I just think that Lamela, sums up his Tottenham Hotspur career so far is the game at Arsenal. That fantastic goal that he scored, and then of course minutes later, then getting sent off. That is the frustration in Eric Lamela. That he can, do so much, but yet, there's so much that he doesn't do.
He's got so much to his game. You don't have to be. Yeah, forget about the defending part. Like, if you're an attacker, as long as you give your all and you drive at goal, like this is why people like Lucas Moura. And recently he just gets the ball, runs forward, he'll beat a man. He wants to score, he wants to attack. And I think if you do that and you show you want to do that, then the fans will love you. And that's why you do have people that like Lamela. And that's why he has stayed at the club for so long, because he actually tries. It's just, yeah, he's too obvious now. He scores a Rabona every 4 years, and he ball rolls down the touchline to beat a few players, and it just comes. It's a bit predictable now, but I guess this is why he doesn't really ever start. He literally never starts, does he? So
no, he's never really a big name on the team sheet. You know, he's not productive enough with goals and assists, and you know, he doesn't let the ball go at the right time, and he's a type of player that does things that, why did you do that? And it's just frustrating, you know. It's just frustrating. He's a player that, you know, thank you for your service. You know, it's just, he needs to go. He needs to be off the wages. If you can, you know, get 5-10 million for him, you know, great. You know, thank you very much. We'll always play that highlight reel of the Rabona goal, you know, when we mention you, but you know, it's time to move some of these guys on. You know, I think it's more important that we move 4 or 5 players on this season and build from new and bring some new fresh blood in and build from there, because some of these guys have been here for so long. You know, I think Moussa Sissoko, he replaced Dembele for 1 season, and I think he managed it for 1 season, but I don't think he can do it again. You know, that season, I don't know how he managed to play so good and he was doing a job, but he's not been the same player, and he just doesn't do it enough for me. He can't defend properly and he can't attack properly. So what do you do? What's your role within the club? We need to move these guys on that don't give you enough goals and assists. Players like Harry Winks, if you can't defend and you can't attack, what do? You know, we need to move you on. We need guys who are productive. You know, Højbjerg, he's fairly good defensively, and he seems to be, you know, chipped in with a goal and an assist this weekend. So there you go. And in Ndombele, you know, if you don't give us goals and assists, you have to give us work rate, and he's not doing either of those 3. You see the potential there in these guys, but if you don't do something, you know, you have to offer something to the team, and sometimes the one thing these guys offer isn't enough. You need to be, under Pochettino, everyone had, you know, bundles of energy and work rate, and then they offered something else: goals, assists, tackles. You know, you had Victor Wanyama, who isn't the most talented player, but you know, he chipped in with tackles and he was strong, and you know, he chipped in with a goal here and there, and you know, the crazy goal at Anfield, you know, the last goal at White Hart Lane against United. We don't have these players at the club anymore. We don't have anyone like that anymore at the club. It's just dead wood, you know, the club. It's just full of it. We have lots of players that need to be moved on. They're just not good enough anymore.
Well, these players do need to get us over that line and get European football for next season. Lee, let's start with you. The preview for the Aston Villa game, of course, takes place Wednesday night, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We've got 2 games left, 6 points to play for. Now, if we win both games, we will qualify for the Europa League. And I know when all of us Spurs fans say, well, if we do this and if we do that, we'll do this, that, and the other. And then you know, somehow they let us down. But if we win these 2 games, we will qualify for the Europa League. Now, I've worked it out, and if this is correct, I think it is. If we win against Aston Villa, we are guaranteed at least 7th place in the Premier League, which will guarantee us a place in the Europa Conference League, which is this brand new competition for next season.
Yippee. Now, do you get a trophy?
Well, you never know. You never know.
If you win it.
If Graham Potter takes over and we go all the way to the final, well, you never know. Aston Villa at the moment, they're sitting in 11th place in the Premier League. They've played 36, won 14, drawn 7 and lost 15. They've got 49 points. We're sat in 6th place at the moment. Lee, what have you made of Aston Villa's season so far?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't watch a lot of other teams' football too intently. You know, I watch them when they play us, and you know, and the occasional game here and there. So I'm not going to say that I followed their results and took a lot of notice of them. To be fair, but they're kind of one of those, aren't they? Now that they've come up from the Championship, and they're now kind of trying to establish themselves so that they're not a yo-yo club and all the rest of it. I mean, they're a club with great history. Let's not forget that, right? I think they probably deserve a bit better than where they are. They've probably had some dodgy results, and they've got a good player in Grealish who we've obviously all talked about over the last sort of couple of years. But I think they probably haven't got the depth of quality that they really need to really get them somewhere. They're kind of at that difficult stage of trying to cement that position before they can kind of move on, and they probably need a lot of investment, like most teams, to really solidify your position. So I don't think it'll be an easy game for us, for sure, because I don't think any game's an easy game these days in the Premier League, because all those clubs have worked hard to get there, and none of them want to go down and that sort of stuff. There might not be anything to play for, but there'll be some pride in there, and John Terry ain't going to want to lose to us, is he? So I think it'll be a difficult game, but it's not for me, it's not an unwinnable game. It's one that we should be winning.
Max, let's come to you. With a win for Spurs, we could set a new club record of 6 straight wins against Aston Villa, and Harry Kane has scored 7 goals in his past 6 Premier League games against Aston Villa. This is a must-win game again, isn't it?
I was going to say, don't even mention that free kick that he scored, because that's probably the last free kick he scored, wasn't it? Which took a massive deflection about 10, 15, 30, 40 years ago. No, they are a good side. I've watched them a few times this season, especially like John McGinn, El Ghazi, Grealish goes without saying, and Watkins, he knows where the goal is. So they're not a team to sit back. They do attack, and they've played well this season. I think we can just if we play our game, if we play, obviously Wolves were shocking. You can't really compare it to them, because I feel like Aston Villa will be more up for it, but play a similar lineup, and there's no reason why we can't go there and win that game. I know it's probably being a bit disrespectful to them, because they've had quite a good partnership. Who's at the back with Mings? I was looking at their side here, even like Ross Barkley and stuff like that. They've got some good players. Oh, is it Konsa? Konsa at the back?
Yeah.
No, probably just waffling. But Mings, I know he's another player. I'd actually have Mings at Spurs, so that shows how much I'd actually rate him. I think he's someone that he'd be affordable. I know he's English, so it puts the price up normally 20, 30 million anyway. But he's a player, I guess we'll see what happens going forward in the future. But Villa, it's one of those games. Whenever I normally look at Aston Villa on paper, you can look at that and say, yeah, I fancy this one. You fancy 3 points. But this season, I feel like they're looking better than recent years. It's going to be a tough one, to be fair. Ollie Watkins, he holds his own up front, definitely. He's a big lad. And we've been shocking. I have people in the comments saying Mings, nah, but you know what? Each to our own. Only because I've been watching him quite recently, and he throws his weight about. He's a big lad. He's good in the air. Why? What? I mean, he's like a Joe Rodon, you could say. But we just haven't seen much of him. But it's definitely one that Mason needs to make sure the players are up for it, because that can turn tricky, a game like that. Definitely.
It's frustrating, though, Max, isn't it? The fact that you see how good Jack Grealish is, and we had the chance to sign him, and also I had the chance to sign Ollie Watkins as well. Neither of the deals got done.
What did he offer him? 5 million a packet of quavers or something, wasn't it? It was something stupid. I don't know. Levy's just he's on 1 minute. When Levy comes to transfers, it just makes you think: are you right in the head? Are you watching the same player we're watching? Because give it 10, 15 million. They just snap him up. Are you telling me they're not going to make that sort of money back? Especially when we've got the long bar, we've got all the merchandise. They're making tons of money on match days. It just doesn't make sense anymore. We're missing out on so many top class players. Grealish being one of them. I think he's phenomenal. I can't wait to actually see him at the Euros. I think he's going to be brilliant, especially if we get to see him and Kane at the Euros linking up, and everyone's going to be wishing, oh, I wish we saw this at Spurs. And I'm even seeing people do like the renders of him in a Spurs shirt on Twitter, and it just shows how highly rated he is. Isn't he their captain, or is that Mings? I'm sure I've seen Grealish with the captain's armband on. So
yeah, he is.
I mean, now it's going to be silly money. It's not going to be worth talking about money, really, is it? Unless unless a silly deal that Levy can put out the bag, God knows. But another player we've missed out on. And
in my opinion, I just think the club have to go out and make a real statement this summer. You know, particularly, you mentioned the protests and everything there, Max, like earlier on, and the way that the club is in such a state at the moment, and we've got to get rid of players, we've got to bring new players in. I think this summer the club just have to make a huge statement and go out, spend vast amounts of money and go and sign some world-class players, household names that we all know and that we're all in awe of. Because I think it's just been 100%. So overdue of us signing world-class players. We've had players that have been excellent stars at the club that we've made them into that. But I mean, go out and just go and get some recognised players that we are all going to be so excited about. That we have to do that, surely, and especially if you want to keep the likes of Harry Kane.
That's the problem. We're signing players like Jedson Fernandez, and you just think a little bit more money, and you get the real version Fernandez, not a fake one. I just don't get Levy's attitude at times. He wants to find a player that is suddenly going to come out. Remember when Morris came to Leicester? They got him for pennies or whatever.
Yeah.
He blew the league away. He's unbelievable. He beats players. I mean, that happens once every blue moon because they might not have had the money to go ahead and buy a 50-60 million pound player. We've got that sort of ability and we're going to have to. We've got someone like Harry Kane at the club. Are you telling me he's sitting there thinking, oh, you've got Jedson Fernandez coming? No, he's going to want someone that's providing 25, 30 assists a season in all competitions. Think how many goals Kane would be scoring at City with the likes of Foden, De Bruyne. We need players that have that sort of ability. It's not for me to sit here and pluck a player out the air because I don't get paid to do that. We've got players, we've got the board and directors and whoever's Mr. Hitchin who's sitting there, Mr. January transfer, I hate this, I hate that. I don't care. That's your job. That's your job, mate. Go and bring me.
And you're paid a lot of money and all.
It's doing. I'm going to be sat here in 20, 30 years' time saying, oh, look at Ollie Skip. He's come through the ranks. He's done brilliantly at Norwich. It's just going to keep. It's a big circle, man. It's like you said, it comes down to this summer. This summer is make or break. Forget about transfers. If Harry Kane goes, even if we get that money, even if we get silly amount of money, what are we going to do with it?
Yeah, it's a big summer. The management situation, the players coming in, the players going out the door, everything about it. Melvin, let's come to you. Aston Villa, of course, tomorrow in the Premier League. Your thoughts ahead of this game?
Be the difference. That could be the difference. I think the fans being back, it will be the extra 10%.
Not because I didn't want it. Not because I didn't want it. I just couldn't.
I don't know. I think the 2,000 Spurs fans against Arsenal, I think that made slight difference in the team, and I think this could be the same thing. Having 10,000 in the stadium will, with the echoes and the vibrations and all of that, it will sound like there's 50,000 people in the stadium, and I think it will be a real boost for the team. And I think we can win against Aston Villa. I think we can beat Villa, but I think we'll struggle against Leicester. But I'm confident against Villa.
Melvin, you talking about the fans back in the stadium, 10,000 fans back in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Do you think that's going to have the real difference for Tottenham to get the 3 points? Yeah,
it did against Arsenal. I think it lifted the team. I think it's the difference. I think it will really help. And I think players like Son and Kane, they feed off the crowd. I think even players like Eric Dyer and Toby and Hugo, they live for these sort of games, the big atmosphere, and I think it changes the performance and the match day atmosphere, and having fans back after a year and a half, it will be different, and they can use it as motivation and it's like, I don't know, fuel for the guys. It will be like, as a Spurs fan, when you hear the songs, your hand starts to shake and you get excited, and I think it will make the difference.
Right, final question for you all. A score prediction for the Aston Villa game. score prediction for the Leicester game, and who you think Tottenham, the new Tottenham Hotspur manager will be. Lee, let's start with you.
2-0 to us against Villa. I think 1-1 against Leicester, if we're lucky. And I think it's going to be someone like, and I don't know for definite, but I think it'll be someone like the Wolves manager. I think we'll end up with someone like that.
Wow. Okay. Melvin?
I think 3-0 with the Aston Villa game. I think we'll lose against Leicester. And I'm going to say Bielsa.
Max?
Only because you're asking me. 3-1 Spurs. Harry Kane hat-trick.
Wow.
Oh, no, that's the dream, eh? And then that's the dream anyway. It's just winning. Let's just 3-1. I'm gonna go 3-1. Leicester, I can't see us beating them. I think they're class. I think they've had a brilliant season. And they're only going to be riding off of that victory the other day as well. I mean, the goal as well, Tielemans, the strike. I mean,
fantastic.
Fans, if they were lucky enough to be at that game, that's what being in the stadium's all about, witnessing scenes like that. But definitely that. I'd like Brendan Rodgers, but considering that's never happening, if it's one of those three or Bielsa that's in the short list that I've got on my hand to choose from, then I'm sticking with Ryan Mason. No, yeah, wow. I'll stick with. Melvin said he could potentially have the best Premier League record for Spurs, and that's all I need to hear. Yeah, he's only had 6 games.
My answer is Brendan Rodgers. I think that we're going to get Brendan Rodgers as our boss, and I know a lot of people are saying it never happened. You know, he's about to qualify for the Champions League with them. He's won the FA Cup, but we have to see Tottenham Hotspur as a big club, and I'm hoping that Daniel Levy and the board are going to pull it out of the bag and go and get someone big. Like Lee said earlier, you know, we've got to go out and get someone big who has been there and done it. I know we had that in Jose Mourinho, but I'm underwhelmed, same as you guys, with the likes of Graham Potter and Scott Parker. I want to go out and get someone who has been there and done it and won things. And he's done a very, very good job at Leicester. I think he can do that at Spurs. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win against Aston Villa. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw at Leicester. Max, before we go, tell everyone about your YouTube channel. Not that you need any more subscribers, but tell everyone about what you do.
Well, at the moment, obviously, if you want to see 2 idiotic Spurs fans watching reaction games on the sofa and reacting to Spurs games until I'm back in the stadium, of course, then X-Duo Max on YouTube. Probably everyone says they see me from the Ajax video. Somehow I've managed to get over 1 million views from sitting on my sofa, but I'll take that. I still want to say, if we get Rodgers, you need to get me back on it, because I just don't see it. But it's a statement. That would be a statement.
Max, you seem to have so much to say. You're definitely coming back.
I'll just waffle. I get this when I used to sit next to Expressions, so I've heard it all, haven't I?
Did you get a word in?
No. This is why I'm allowed to express myself now.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Max. Really appreciate it.
Something we didn't mention at all. We're going to finish against Arsenal again this season. We're going to finish on top of them if we beat Villa. 3 points secures it. So that's, something to celebrate.
Let's put the mockers on it then.
Something to celebrate. The only thing positive this season is that we're going to finish on top of them again.
Well, we must get European football. That is an absolute must, because we are in danger. I know some people have even put in the comments in the stream tonight that they would rather finish 8th and not have any European football. But we definitely need European football. We do not want to be in that European Conference League. We have to be in Europa League football, because whatever manager comes in, even if Ryan Mason stayed there, we do need European football next season to attract some decent players, in European football. So it has to happen. Lee, tell everyone about your YouTube channel as well.
Well, yeah. How do I follow Max with my measly 700 subscribers? But if you like watching some old bloke in pain in his car moaning about Tottenham, then I'm your man. So yeah, I'm on YouTube. Lee the Dorset Spur. Come and give me a look.
You know how to promote yourself, didn't you, Lee? I tell you, 700 subscribers. So everybody,
700.
Please do go over to Lee because he wants to just get past that 1,000 mark. So please get your phones out, your laptops, whatever you're on. Please go over to Lee the Dorset Spur and hit that subscribe button because he wants to get over 1,000. And I think that we will have a huge smile on Lee's face if he gets that 1,000 mark.
Get him on your screen. Get him on your screen. Hit that button. There you go.
That's it. I need some credibility. That's what I need. Need some credibility. Come on, sort it out.
Well, Lee, thanks so much for joining us
got
tonight.
One. Just got one.
That was
me. There you go. It was worth coming on, Lee, wasn't it?
Yeah, brilliant.
Lee, Melvin, Max, thanks so much for joining me. Let's hope that Tottenham can get over that line, get that European spot, win against Aston Villa, win against Leicester City, and we're guaranteed the Europa League spot. Hope you've enjoyed today's video and come on, you Spurs.
Up the Spurs.
Go, you Spurs.